Good morning. Welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs. You're looking at our brand new staircase rug. I'm so excited about it. I wanted to show it to you. It's so cushy. So let's see. Did I say welcome to Books at the Bottom of the Stairs? Did I say hello, my name is Lorraine? Sometimes I get excited about things and I don't pay attention to what's coming out of my mouth. Anyways, we finally got a new carpet. It took us about 4 years to make up our mind. That's about average for Steve and I when we're making a decision about changing things. We go, oh, that looks like it needs replacing. It's worn out. Then we talk for a little bit about what kind of options there are. Then we kind of do a bit of shopping, a little bit of online. That takes us about 2 years. And then one of us will say, let's stop in such and such a store, and we pop our heads in, get a couple of samples, then take another 6 months, do it again somewhere else. And yeah, after about a total of 4 years, we finally come to some kind of a decision and buy something. And then Steve was the one who did the installation, and he's so brilliant. He really did a beautiful job of it. It's got those kinds of rods that go across to hold everything in. So anyways, it's super cushy, and when you go up and down the stairs, it's like, ooh, my feet feel so good. And one of the funny things we weren't expecting is the cat, all that she's a very little cat, she makes so much noise when she's coming down the stairs. She just sounds like she's so pissed off. But now with this cushy carpet, you don't hear her going up or down. And she hasn't yet figured out that it's a really good place for clawing. So she's not that great of a bad cat, if you know what I mean. She doesn't do a lot of typical cat things, and clawing she hasn't done. So that's great, good news. But you never know with a cat when they change their mind. I'm bringing to you a book that I just finished. I was so excited when it was coming in. I don't even remember who recommended it or why I thought it was going to be brilliant, but when I saw it finally come in from the library, I was super duper excited. It's The Once and Future Witches, and it is by Alix Harrow, who was also the author of 10,000 Doors of January, which I think one of my YA books clubs, probably Woozles, I think we did it as a book club book, and I enjoyed 10,000 Doors of January, but I have to confess that quite often I would walk past it because it would be on the bookshelf upstairs, and I'd say, what was that one about? What was that one about? So as much as I enjoyed it, it didn't quite stick with me. I needed some kind of a cue to remind myself what was the plot. But very good writer. So what I did was I just typed in to see what else Alix Harrow had written, and this came up. So it's quite a bit different than 10,000 Doors. And we're meant to write down when it was published. Doodly-doo. Why did they do that right at the beginning? 2020. So not that old. I don't really think I've seen that much hot topics, people talking it up on BookTube. So I don't think it's really become very popular. And I'm not sure why, because it's a really, really good book. It's about 600 pages, or close to, 500, sorry. And it's one of those books where I put it down and picked it up an awful lot. There wasn't enough action, as in, thriller type action or mystery type action, to keep me completely engaged. There was quite a lot of character development and quite a lot of scenario development that took place. And it isn't until you get to about somewhere around page 300 that we're starting to get tighter and tighter crises points. There are many crises before page 300, but after page 300, what's happened is we're seeing the individuals. Well, you don't even know what the book's about. Let me back up. So there's 3 witches, and their names are James Juniper, she's the youngest and she's the wildest. Agnes Amaranth, and she's sort of considered the mother figure of the 3 of them. She's the one who is pregnant and is sort of considered to be the strongest of the 3 sisters. And then there's Beatrice Belladonna, who's the eldest, and is a librarian, and she would be, by virtue of being the oldest, she's considered to be sort of the crone, and as a librarian, she's considered to be the holder of wisdom. Well, that's not actually how the world around them perceives them. That's sort of how the reader perceives them, because they fall into the archetypes of the three crones and take on, to a certain degree, some of those archetypal stereotypes. What Alix Harrow does is turn this all upside down, in the sense that they're modern-ish women. They are from the 1830s, and it's during the beginnings of the suffrage movement. It's an alternative world. There really aren't any references back to the American Civil War or the American Revolution, and there's not really any context in terms of the rest of the world, Europe, or what's happening. So it's kind of an isolated community in New Salem and New Cairo, and there's really no even references to the larger United States. It's just this kind of, well, like little spot of geography that we come upon them. And Old Salem has been burned to the ground during the time of the Puritans, when all the witches were expunged from the land. And the Tower of Avalon was destroyed. The Tower of Avalon is a collection, in a tower, of all the spells and hexes and curses and potions and any sort of magical kind of things that have been gathered over the centuries. Some of them are voices in the air. You get them from across all nations, across all cultures. So it's the repository of all the witch knowledge. But as we get through the story, we start to realize that witch knowledge is not necessarily connected to bloodline, which is a trope that we see in most other books. And despite the fact that these are three sisters, it's not necessarily dependent on their being three sisters that they are who they are in terms of the witch world. So that's one of the things that is explored, as what is magic? How do you obtain it? Do you have to have special privileges in order to get it? And basically the answer is kind of no, but if you have need, if you're a woman and you have need, then the magic will come to you, and you will find your own entry point into it, and you will be able to somehow come up with a solution that works in order to create a spell that's going to help with childbirth, help with healing, make a curse, protect yourself, become invisible. And in just a couple minutes, the birds are going to start screaming in the kitchen for the clock. So just to warn you. So the three sisters have escaped at different points in time from an abusive father, and the youngest one, James Juniper, has escaped with the most drama, let's say. There's a fire, she's on the run, she's being sought as a criminal, and she goes to New Salem. So New Salem has arisen because Old Salem is gone. They had to go somewhere. And New Salem is considered to be a witch-free zone, and so we've got this sort of small group of witchy type things that the suffragette movement is ignoring, but then there's the white Christian women who are in conflict with the suffragettes, and are also in conflict with what little they know of magic. And so it's a very complex plot. We've got Gideon Hill, who's a real creepy kind of guy, who wants to be the new mayor. And of course he comes off as just those kind of weepy, whiny, kind of wheezy, drippy eyebrows, you know, all ugly kind of guy. The small, squirmy guy wants to be the big mayor. And as time goes on, we realize he is certainly not what he appears. There's more going on there than anybody realizes. And what has been going on for centuries. So Gideon Hill is way more than Gideon Hill. And he has a thing against witchcraft and magic, and he's really out to get the three sisters. So in the first 2/3 of the books, we are encountering the sisters more or less as separate entities, each with their own dilemmas, each with their own kind of magical specialty, as it were, each with their own battered relationship with their sisters as a result of, you know, back home with brutal dad. And what we see happening in the first part is they're sort of coalescing as sisters, coalescing as people, becoming a little bit more self-aware as to just what that means to be their own person, because each in their own way has been in hiding all these years. And as they come together and build the bonds of sisterhood and reach out to other women who are like-minded and like-abilitied, we start to see a growing sisterhood of Avalon, which becomes a more powerful witch magic base. And this is where the three sisters come into conflict with Gideon Hill. And then, there we go. That's the chickadee. It's telling us it's 2 o'clock. Time for a nap if you're a cat. Okay, so Gideon Hill has got this vendetta against the three sisters, and in some cases, like anybody would have a vendetta against the three sisters because they are creating quite a lot of mayhem. And what they've decided is, in order to really break away from the iron fist of the male dominance, which is it's a pretty brutal world for women, not unlike the one we have now, really, frankly. So magic is the answer to a lot of things. So what they're trying to do is give the magic to the women of New Salem, and at the same time try and express their power as women through witchcraft. And so we have a few demonstrations of just how powerful they can be, which only makes the predator, or most men, more afraid. And so we've got this conflict building, and eventually Gideon Hill manages, as you know, as a as the third of the book comes on, these are starting to swirl tighter and tighter until eventually there's a capture and release, and a capture and a release, and betrayal, and scaffolding, and fires, and witch burning, and witch rescuing, and you know, we end up with quite a catastrophic kind of an ending. It ends in such a way that it's not pretty, and certainly there are many unleft answers to whether witchcraft is really going to be the solution for the troubles of women. But we start to see hope at the end of the book, so it's not a hopeless book. And through the course of this, a baby is born. And I would say that that was one of my only 2 quibbles with this book. I had sort of a third one, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm totally quibbling it. Anyways, the first quibble I had was around the birth of this little girl. And yeah, I don't want to give anything away, and I don't want to turn you off the book. It just didn't make sense to me in terms of how babies are delivered. It's coming on too fast, and then it's not coming on fast enough. We're not sure why. There's magic involved that's good. There's magic that's bad. There's just like, it's kind of, I mean, I can understand it from a tension point of view, why it's written the way it's written, but there's just, there's just some illogical things that are going on that, despite the potential of magic interfering with the birth, it just doesn't make sense. So that was a quibble point for me, and quite often I find those quibble points anyways in a lot of books. I think, I don't know, the writing of the delivery of a baby, however you see it in the movies or in a book form or what have you, I don't think too many people have got it across very well. So that was my only significant quibble. I had another quibble around the scaffold scene where there's witches that are about to be burned, and there's just some what do you call that? Continuity problems in terms of what people are wearing and where they're standing and where the fire is and how hot the fire is and what you can do with the fire and can't do with the fire, and there's just some continuity issues around that. Major, it's not even really the most major of the crisis scenes. It's just the build up to the climax. Anyways, I like this book. I like it better for having finished it than the journey through the book. I did struggle to read it. Partly I was still a bit unwell and just had a hard time concentrating. But as I say, as the book gets tighter and tighter in its narrative, it was much more compelling. And I really enjoyed it in the end. I think this is definitely stronger than the 10,000 Doors of January. I found that one a bit chaotic and unreading. So I recommend this book quite a bit. I'm going to give it I guess about a 4 out of 5 for sure. And yeah, I guess that's everything for me. Enjoy the book. Enjoy the reading, enjoy the new ideas about magic, and I hope all your reading dreams and adventures continue to come true. Bye-bye.